Question to Americans. What do you consider a 4th of July movie? What are the requirements that scream 4th of July? I ask because it's so strange. Every holiday, whether it's Christmas, Easter, Halloween, or even Valentine's Day, has their own respective movies that slowly over time become seasonal traditions for many American families to watch. But I don't recall 4th of July having that kind of special tradition. A special movie that causes one to say, yes, let's watch that movie. So imagine my surprise when I stumble upon 1776. And let me just say, it's incredible. Let's talk about it. 1776 is the film adaptation of the 1969 Broadway production equally titled 1776. Composed by Sherman Edwards and scripted by Peter Stone, 1776 became a huge success when the show debuted on Broadway, an acclaimed musical that won both the Tony Award and the New York Drama Critics Circle Award as Best Musical. It was so successful that in 1972, the story was brought onto the big screen by none other than Jack L. Warner, the former production chief at Warner Brothers Studio. And this film adaptation is the one we are reviewing today. And before we go any further, I just need to clarify that I've never seen the original production or have seen any productions of 1776, so I'll be purely focusing on the film and treating it as a standalone product since I cannot compare the two platforms. 1776 is incredible. There's truly nothing like it. It's kind of hard for me to describe why that is, but I hope I can explain my thoughts well enough in this review. It's charming, it's witty, it's playful, it's quirky, but it's also sometimes serious and introspective, and it's very honest in its portrayal of not only the founding fathers, but also the history they created. I'll tell you what I liked, what I didn't like, and if there's anything I would personally change in this incredible piece of film. If you haven't seen the movie, let me give you a summary of the story. Also, by the way, there will be spoilers. Not that I think you would need that warning unless you don't know anything about American history, but just in case. Spoilers. The story follows John Adams, a very serious, no-nonsense kind of man who is quite determined to make sure America gains independence from Britain. However, Congress does not appear as passionate as he is in this mission. So, in order to achieve his goal, Adams must find ways to persuade the other members of Congress to vote for independence. While this is quite a small summary, I cannot think of a way to truly capture how this movie showcases its challenges and convictions. While this film might seem like a fun, family-friendly movie, and it most definitely is, it is also a movie about the compromises these men had to make in order to gain freedom. You start the film with smiles, laughter, and giggles, and then you finish the film feeling quite shaken and somber. Sure, it's a bunch of singing, dancing congressmen. That's already quite strange. Quite the image. But that's not all there is to this film. So let me start with how great this movie musical is. I cannot stress this enough. The music in this movie is phenomenal. Every single track is fantastic. It's charming, witty, quirky, sometimes just very, very silly, almost cartoonish in a sense. Almost every single number in this film fits those descriptions. I found myself smiling or even laughing out loud throughout the entirety of each number. And it gets even better when you find out that a lot of the lyrics were based on actual letters written from the very people themselves. And there is so much charm in the singing and dancing too. Like, I love the choreography in this film. It's so simple but effective. Like, there really isn't a whole lot of dancing in this show, but this musical doesn't need a lot of dancing to get its point across. Right now, we live in a world where dancing, intense, energetic dancing, is the most important aspect of entertainment. And while I love me some exciting, high adrenaline hip-hop dancing, I do miss the more simplistic dancing. The kind that makes you sway along with the music. The kind that is so subtle but playful in its delivery. The kind that makes you want to take a ballroom class just for the heck of it. There is such a thing as overcompensating when it comes to dancing, and this film makes sure not to do that. I mean, this is a bunch of 40-something or older men dancing in 17th century clothing. It's already quite ridiculous. It leans right on the edge of being almost too goofy before the choreography settles down again. It's truly eye-catching. I think the only time I felt like the dancing was a bit odd was in the middle of the number Cool, Cool, Considerate Men. I guess the men are practicing ballet on their off time. Even the blocking was incredibly effective. How the characters moved around the sets always seemed to be character driven. I cannot remember the last time a film director thought about how, when, and where characters should move during a scene. Maybe it's because the director of this film was the same director for the theater production, because typically only theater directors really think about blocking like this, carefully considering where the actors should stand, where they should go, how they should move. That is purely based on the character's motivations. Really, that's only something that theater directors care about. I don't typically see film directors doing that unless they're actor directors or they have some type of theater background. The singing for the most part is great. I mean, this cast knows how to sing, and it's very rare to have an entire cast made up of mostly men. And the harmonies that come out of these men, incredible. Musical numbers like Sit Down John and Cool, Cool, Considerate Men have the best chorus numbers just for the harmonies alone. Aside from that, the standouts are also Abigail and Martha, the only ladies in this musical. They have beautiful voices and did a fantastic job in their respective songs. There was rarely a moment where I felt like the singing was off, and when it did happen, unfortunately, it usually involved John Adams. I felt like the actor's singing was a bit lacking at times, and it was very noticeable when he sang with any of the other actors or actresses. However, it never took me out of the story. In fact, sometimes that imperfection brought me into the story. I mean, he nails it in his final song, Does Anybody Care? And the actor does a great job showcasing his character, so truly his singing abilities matter very, very little, in my opinion. Overall, the dancing and the singing, just the music itself is so silly, sometimes downright cartoonish, but to me, that is true old school musical theater. And the music and performances weren't always happy and playful. Sometimes the numbers got very serious too. The music and the story, for that matter, wasn't afraid to delve into deeper, more dreadful topics. But I will get to that in a bit. For now, let's talk about the cast because I need to talk more about how amazing these actors and actresses were. Modern movie musicals need to take notes. I absolutely love this cast. And do you know why I love this cast? Do you know why this cast is so amazing? Because almost every single person in this film was from the original Broadway production. And even those who weren't in the production still gave it their all and created a good performance for the film. Sometimes the best actors for a movie musical are the ones who play the characters on stage. Who knew? No, but seriously, I don't think people understand how dedicated and knowledgeable theater actors are about their own characters. Theater actors know their parts inside and out. They play these characters for weeks, months, sometimes even years. And 1776 is a perfect example to show how well theater actors know the story and how well they can perform them, whether on stage or on film. Example. And I just watched this film a couple of days ago, again for the third time, and I noticed something so fun. If you've seen this film, watch it again, but this time, watch what is happening in the background. The amount of things these actors do to show off their characters, or the way they interact with each other, can be so intriguing to watch. You might find them playing cards, or falling asleep, or getting into an argument, and everything feels in character. And the only way these actors are able to do this so effectively is because they know their characters. They know how their character would respond or think or act. They know how to tell a story through their body language and facial expressions, whether they are speaking or not. And because these characters have so much life in them, every single person has such distinct qualities that make them stand out. From John Adams to the Leather Apron Boy, by the end of the film, You feel like you know all of these characters. Side note, despite how large the cast is, it's actually amazing how much effort the creators made to make sure each character got their moment to shine, whether through song or a memorable line. That's quite the feat, and they should be commended for it. I didn't mean to make this into a theater actor praise video, but I just need someone in the filmmaking business to get my point. If you're gonna do a movie musical, maybe, just maybe you should consider hiring the very actors who understand these characters better than you ever will. Something that this film should also be commended for is how hilarious this movie is. Personally, it's quite hard for me to genuinely laugh out loud at a movie, but every 5 to maybe 3 minutes, I'm genuinely laughing so hard at something that's happening on screen. It's incredibly clever and has this silly charm to it that you never see in movies today. Even the dark humor or the sexual undertones that are written into the script was clever. And I'm not someone who usually cares for those types of humor, but I am completely fine with it in this film. I think one of the reasons why the comedy lands so well is because the characters are a bunch of bubbling idiots half the time. Like, these are supposed to be our founding fathers, but they are yelling for beer, complaining about the heat and flies, and appear desperate for nap time. When I first watched this film, I remembered feeling quite shocked by the humor that this film brought into these characters, but I quickly grew to like it. The jokes, the complaining, the fighting, it just made these men feel human, made them feel real. And that's honestly quite impressive. The creators did an amazing job making these founding fathers feel real and normal. One of my biggest complaints on modern movies is how tonally unbalanced most stories can get if not written well. Some movies can become so silly and childish that it doesn't spare a moment to delve into something more quiet and pensive, while other movies can get so dark, serious, and crude that it doesn't take time to find a moment to breathe. This film did an incredible job trying to maintain both. The story knows when to be playful, but it also knows when to be serious. Now, sometimes the tone shifts in this film can be a bit jarring, and I will talk about that later, but it's very smart of the film to take the story and the characters seriously when needed. One example is Franklin. For quite a lot of the film, we see him as someone who indulges in the craziness he is surrounded with. He enjoys messing with Adams, dancing with Martha, and has no problem bantering with Dickinson. But this movie doesn't stop there. It is willing to show other sides of Franklin as well. It is willing to show Franklin as the perceptive, serious man he is. He can get angry. He can be wise. A lesser movie would have just made Franklin an oblivious goofball and nothing more. And that's not just with Franklin, but all of the characters in this film, even the ones with very little screen time. Another example are the musical numbers. Most of the numbers are playful and carefree, but when Mama Looks Sharp comes in, oh gosh. And don't even get me started on Molasses to Rum. When this film gets serious, it gets very serious. These musical numbers are very intense and could even make you cry. We're not talking about the Lee family anymore, people. We're talking about slavery and little boys getting killed. Again, a lesser film would either cut out these musical numbers or they would lean in so hard on these topics that the story would have become too depressing. The film did a masterful job towing the balance between lighthearted and grave, silly but intelligent, playful but stern. Absolutely fantastic. Now, some people might disagree with me on this, but I absolutely loved how this movie was shot. Sure, you could tell this film had a budget and location limitations, but what they were able to utilize in this film, to me, is perfect. I love how they filmed this movie like a stage play. A lot of the time, you just watch these actors do their thing on camera. Only occasionally did the camera move. And when it did, it was because it was assisting the story. An example is when the camera moves along with the actors and he plays the violin. I love when cameras move with the actors as they dance and sing with the music. You almost feel like you are dancing with them. And truly, that's what cinematography should should be doing. That's its most important job, in my opinion. The actors are the stars, not the camera. The camera should assist the actors and the story they're telling, and this film does it beautifully. There were very few times where I thought the camera should have done something different, like a different close-up of someone's face, or a wider shot of Congress, or maybe the camera was just a little bit too shaky, but honestly, that's just me being nitpicky. The lighting is also great. For a lot of the movie, it's bright and sunny, but when that lighting changes, wow, do you notice? And in a good way. It's especially poignant in the numbers Cool, Cool, Considerate Men, Mama Look Sharp, and Molasses to Rum. When the room gets dark, blue, and cold in the middle of Cool, Cool, Considerate Men, you feel that tension. You understand where these men are coming from. When the room fades away, leaving a soft glow on the messenger boy in Mama Look Sharp, you are forced to really listen to these lyrics, forced to truly understand the depth of the situation these young soldiers are being put through. And when the room gets red and angry and hot, as Rutledge describes slavery in Molasses to Rum, you feel how uneasy, awkward, and uncomfortable these men feel as they listen to him. Again, people might disagree with me and think a lot of these effects are cheap, but I just really liked how this film was shot. That's it. Now, I think it's very obvious that I have very few negative things to say about this film, but if I had to mention a couple of things, one thing that I would say is that this film is quite long. I mean, the restored director's cut, which is the one that I watch, is almost 3 hours long. That being said, I can't think of what this film could cut. Even the 40 minutes between songs feels very necessary to the story. Every single thing that happens in that room is vital to the eventual win for independence. So, I don't know. Now, I am not saying that this film shouldn't be serious, or that the serious songs shouldn't be in this film. I am only saying that for a new viewer, these songs have the potential to feel out of place. The beginning of the film, and most of the film in fact, presents itself as a lighthearted movie full of jokes, romance, and laughter to boot. And then suddenly Mama Look Sharp hits you in the feels. You have to admit that's quite the vibe switch. These musical numbers are very important to the overall story, but if you aren't paying attention to the dialogue, truly these songs feel like they come out of nowhere. So if you've never seen the film, just prepare yourself, okay? The last thing I'll mention is the amount of musical numbers in this film and the structure of it. This story does not follow your typical Broadway musical score. There are very few numbers in this musical, like there are only 13 in this entire soundtrack. And there is a strange 40-minute gap in the middle of the movie. Musicals usually never do something like that. And because there's very little singing and very few musical numbers, this movie could have easily been a normal historical film without the songs. If I could, I would actually ask for more songs in this film. Just so it felt more like a Broadway musical. But that's just me being overcritical. I really don't care. I love all the songs in this soundtrack. I am totally good. But if I could have more, I would like more, please. One last honorable mention that I want to talk about is the ending scene. One thing that's so fascinating is we as viewers know how this story ends. We know Congress votes for independence, but the movie does a really good job making you worry for the state of the country. Will they or won't they? And when they do finally vote for independence, you want to clap. You want to cheer. Like, this is a sign of great storytelling. Getting the audience to cheer for the characters when they already know the outcome is honestly brilliant. Now, there are no recordings of the original Broadway production, or even any of the revivals, so I truly cannot compare the Broadway production and this film adaptation. But based on what I do see and what little I know about the stage production, I think I can safely say this adaptation did a great job transitioning from stage to film. The commitment to get almost every cast member in this film, the director being the original director of the stage play, the real built-in sets, the live vocals, everything showed a true dedication to making sure that this musical could tell the best story in film form. And even with all the little flaws it has, it is still a fun watch that everyone in the family can enjoy. And you also get a history lesson out of it, so there you go. In conclusion, 1776 is incredible. Growing up, I never really had a movie that I could say was a 4th of July movie. I'm sure there are good ones out there, but there was nothing that really stuck around for me. But now, as an adult, seeing 1776, I mean, this movie is the true 4th of July movie, and nobody can change my mind. I could truly talk about this film all day, but really, this is one of those films where people need to see it for themselves and make up their own opinions. I think it's also one of those films that needs to be watched a couple of times to fully understand the plot and the characters. Currently, I've watched this film 3 times now, and I'm still finding new things that I didn't catch the first or even second time. Truly, this story makes you feel brave, patriotic, courageous, and inspires you to make something out of your life. This film tells you that in order to stand for something, you must be willing to step out and take a stand, whether it turns out well or not. I'm giving this film 9 out of 10 stars. It's nearly perfect in every possible way, and I highly recommend this film to not only musical theater fans, but also history fans. And if you're a fan of both, man, this film is for you. Let me know your thoughts. Did you love it, hate it, or somewhere in between? Did you like the new songs? Did the characters work for you? And what would you rate this movie musical out of 10 stars? Let me know your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can follow along with me in discovering or rediscovering musicals. See you later and have a happy 4th of July. Thank you so much for watching.